See you. Where are you from?
New York.
Okay.
Yeah, we are. So, hi, I'm Rand Hoppy. I am the executive director of the Jack Kirby Museum and Research Center. Tom, who are you?
I am the president of the museum.
Mike Cicchini, secretary of the Jack Kirby Museum.
Yes.
And we are so happy to have Rob Liefeld here. Rob, tell us, like, you're Mr. Deadpool, you're Cable, you're just a powerhouse of comic book art and characters.
I'm just a fan. I'm just an enormous, tremendous comic book aficionado like you guys. And some of the first comics I ever encountered, actually the first comic I ever bought off the spinner rack had a Jack Kirby cover on it. Okay. So it's when he was doing so many of the covers for Marvel, right? But anyway, I've had a great career. I just such a fan, so fortunate that I got to hang with Jack, dine with Jack. Like I've in the last couple of years, I've realized I may be the only guy from Image Comics who broke bread with him, who went to his house and visited him, and it's baffling to me that, like, literally, because I'll talk to like let's say like an Eric Larson, and he's like, yeah, I didn't have dinner with Jack. What? How?
So you got the war stories then?
Say what?
You got the war stories?
He always told the war stories, and the naked Nazi that jumped in the foxhole. Right. They are the best stories, and you're like, are you making this shit up? You knew he wasn't. He and Raj entertained a whole truckload of my studio mates from my Extreme Studios, and the current publisher of Image Comics and partner in Image Comics, Eric Stevenson, was there, and on one of the occasions, because I went a couple of times, and we always relive those stories. That was magic. I just tell people, like, Jack was magic, and I don't call many people magic. As a matter of fact, he's the only person I've ever dropped that moniker on. Some people are inspiring, but you knew when you were interacting with him that there was an aura, that there was something about him that transcended you and me. He was the real deal. He had superpowers. He could do 3 to 4 pages a day. And I still look at all these books around me going, how did you think of all this shit? Yeah. Like the headdresses alone, you could do a hardcover of Jack Kirby headdresses. So
what were some of the first comics? Were they
he was okay. So my first Jack Kirby, pure Jack Kirby, was at the barbershop, and that was OMAC #1.
Nice.
Okay?
Oh man.
He had been, no, and I flipped out. Guy with the mohawk, people whose heads are and bodies are in boxes. Like I flipped out. And I immediately got it because I watched Shazam in the morning on Saturday morning TV, the live action, and the whole Buddy Blank OMAC seemed, and Brother Eye, like, I'm flipping out, I'm tripping out. But so then that book was not current at the barbershop. So he is doing the covers to Avengers around 147, 146, the Squadron Supreme storyline.
Yeah.
He's doing Defenders covers. He's back on the FF, the Impossible Man, all that stuff. But I'm buying Devil Dinosaur. I'm buying Machine Man in 1978. Yeah. I'm buying his Black Panther. And most importantly, I tell people this, and you guys will relate, you have to be alive in 1976 in America to understand how big the bicentennial was. Yeah. Here on one of our major freeways, here on the 91 freeway in Southern California, when you're headed towards Riverside, the giant water dam still has the bicentennial painted on it with the guys with the war battered revolutionary.
Yeah.
And so when Jack comes on and does Captain America in 1976, it is the perfect merger of like the perfect timeliness. The dude that brought you Captain America is doing Captain America in the bicentennial.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's like, it's one of those times the planets aligned, and that was perfect. And that year that he is on that book is, and dude, I know you guys have it. It's my favorite thing. I truly believe it'll stop a bullet.
Right.
I mean, you can see Moses coming down from the, with his Kirby commandments. Do not take this lightly, people. This is heavy, as my kids would say, AF. It is heavy.
AF,
if I threw this, it would break shit. It has, this is how Jack stuff deserves to be seen. All those double pagers, all of this. Oh, I mean, it is. Oh, Machine Man. I mean, this stuff. I wrote Machine Man fan fiction, dude. I was like writing Machine Man fan fiction.
That's awesome.
Jack was a huge inspiration.
Yeah. Wow. So
he's got to be the most influential artist ever. I literally, once I'm done here, I'm going to go because I want to hear some idiot on Facebook tell me that it's Jim Lee, not Jack Kirby. But sometimes you just set up the low-hanging fruit. But I'm going to be like, is beyond his bold figures, his storytelling, his page design, his blocking, Jack is more than just bold figures, right? His costume design, his character names, like he has to be the most influential comic book artist of all time. And I know that there's some Neil Adams guy that's going to want to argue with me. And man, Neil Adams is on my Mount Rushmore. Okay,
of course,
up there. My Mount Rushmore has Neil on it. Okay, and Jack's up there too. Neil has a great illustrative style that so many people have bit, but it's not the extent of Jack. I mean, literally, on his birthday, this is the time we ponder this stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know that there's an artist, not just comic book artist, as influential as he is. And as you guys know, because I got the call the morning, I was 7 a.m. in the morning when I received the call that he had passed away, or 8 o'clock in the morning. It was very early because I know he was going out to get the paper. And I'm just so glad I was there in that driveway. I had it in my mind. I knew, where he passed. But, because he didn't live to see all of this come to life, that's why people don't know him more. And so thanks for doing this. All of you guys, Tom and Rand and Mike, thanks for doing this all day for 3 days.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining us.
On, because we need to get his name out there as much as possible.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're working on.
Doing a great job.
Yeah. So you were doing Machine Man fiction? Were those comics that you were drawing? Were you drawing?
I was writing prose. I literally for school for book reports and stuff.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I read a Machine Man comic, and here's my continuation of it. No,
nice.
They knew I was crazy. I was the crazy comic. Today's comic book kids don't understand what we had to go through.
That's true.
Comics were not respected. They were mocked. You hid them in your peachy folders.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the Eternals too. That's the thing. And I grabbed Kevin Feige last year at Comic-Con at the party afterwards. And the cool thing is Kevin really was genuine. I told him how much I loved the Eternals presentation. And he said, really? Why? Because they didn't show much. And I said, because it's pure Jack. This is only Jack. Jack's story, words, pictures, all of it. And I said, I'm really excited. And Kevin, very sincerely, because I've seen him at so many functions, Kevin Feige leaned in and said, Rob, I'm just so sad he didn't see any of this. It bums me out. He goes, it really does. But we're gonna do the best we can. And then a month later, I went to D23, and I'm not sure those costumes were what I would say doing the best I can. So the jury is out, but I will take my guns and knives to that movie if it does not honor Mr. Jack. But dude, and then don't even get me started on Captain Victory. One of my favorite things he's ever done.
Yeah.
The Kirbys gave me the license for it was a 60-day window. I negotiated with his family. It wasn't Jeremy, it was somebody else. That they granted me the ability to try and set it up as a film and a TV show and a toy line. And I had a giant meeting with Mattel where I had blown up all the stuff. And I said, look, this is a perfect, entry point for cartoons, for toys. I mean, I have never been prouder of my presentation, but, I didn't seal the deal, didn't make the deal, but that's how much I loved Captain Victory. I still hope that something can come because I really believe it's got a lot of close encounters Invasion of Body Snatchers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great.
It is.
Great. Especially those spreads. Some of those
What year was that?
spreads are just mind blowing. Like
Oh,
with
yeah.
the brain floating in the hand and
The year I went to Mattel was 1998. Okay, so that's when I went in there again before they were. And dude, I went in with, here's who Jack has created. You've already seen this many Jack Kirby influenced cartoons.
Right.
From Fantastic Four cartoon to Thundar the Barbarian, which he's absolutely key on. So yeah, I mean, I did my best. I really felt I wouldn't have done it unless I felt I had the best shot possible. But I also said, because I have my own podcast that I do, and I was refreshing people's minds that like back in the 90s, people the only comic book movie they thought that they could wrap their head around was the Tim Burton Batman movies. Everything else was like, I don't understand this. I don't know. How's it going to be like Batman? It's not. Like, you don't have vision beyond this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the one great thing about having somebody like a Kevin Feige who really is a comic book guy who has been able to just go, because normally the producers and the executives in those positions, they only follow what's successful. If it veers off the path, they don't, they very rarely.
They're not going to take
experiment.
that risk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, but when Captain Victory came out, there is no Image Comics without Pacific Comics. Right. Seeing the biggest name in comics launch his own series from a brand new publisher. And I remember the fan press was out in full force, Comics Journal, Amazing Heroes, and they're out there, promoting that Jack Kirby is launching this new independent label with Pacific Comics with the Shanas brothers. I mean, that was exciting because you just can't get enough comics when you're young, right? I mean, anything independent. I would grab Nexus. I grabbed Captain Victory. I grabbed Star Slayer. So, but Jack, and I have poured over that Captain Victory issue #1 with Mike Royer. That is, that is fantastic. I bet you I have more than one Kirby cover right here.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, Captain Victory was like when the comic shops really became a place for me to go, right? Because it was, you didn't really have, you could kind of still stick with the newsstand unless you wanted like Star Reach or something.
Exactly. No, so this is when I'm 8 years old buying these.
How do we get
this is
there we go.
This is when Jack, I mean, these are not only are these great comics, but it was perfect that he was doing the covers. And so these are on my spinner rack, and don't give me that shit that they should be bagged and board. No. And no. Like I tell people, there were no bags and boards until the mid 80s, or not that I knew of. You didn't, you bought these off the spinner rack in this condition. So,
that's right. I
mean, look at these covers. Shit. I always tell people, when Jack came back, man, he came to play. His compositions were amazing. The figure work, the floating heads too. Nobody did the floating heads. Jack is doing the Invaders covers. So he's doing the Invaders, the Avengers, the Defenders, Fantastic Four. He's like doing every team book that Marvel does, with the exception of X-Men. He is cranking out covers. I just, that would have been so exciting to like say, hey Jack, I'm the editor of so-and-so. Can you give me 12 covers? Done. Click. When do you need them? Yesterday. I mean, I'll do it. Yeah, no, I love that guy. I just.
How did you meet him for the first time?
So I had met him as a fan, getting my stuff signed. But when I met him, I'll tell you the story. I think it was Creation Con 1990, not Creation Con. It was the LA Comic Con. It was not Creation, whatever franchise was holding their first ever LA, like a recent LA show. And they put me on a panel with Jack, and it was myself, Mike Mignola. This is way before Hellboy. And I was doing stuff at Marvel. Mike was doing stuff at DC. And they asked us to be on a panel with Jack, and Roz sat in the front row, and we were obviously enormously kind of intimidated to take the stage with Jack. But, in typical Jack fashion, Jack and Roz would both thank us before we just thank you so much for doing this panel with Jack. Thank me? what? Like, they're just super polite, delightful, wonderful people. And then Jack, right there on the stage in the panel room, we were the Saturday afternoon panel, and Jack leaned into the mic and said, because somebody, asked him about movies and the rumors of movies. And so Jack said, I don't have a budget when I draw. Whatever I decide to draw that day, it's whatever's in my head, and my head has an unlimited budget. And movies have limitations of budgets and cartoons, but when I fill up the page, it's unlimited in its scope and scale, and it costs whatever I want because the price of production is my pencil and my eraser. And I swear to God, I almost fell over dead. Like, I'm like, I was like, okay, God has spoken and inspired all of us to get our shit together, because no truer words have ever been like, and this is the grand sage. How many thousands of comics, how many, like, at that point, has he drawn 20,000 pages? I mean, like, it's easy. Like, I did my career stats the other day, and I have averaged 100 pages a year in my 34 years in comics. It's more than some, less. It's more than most, less than some. And then you have guys like Jack Kirby, who's like, are you kidding me? I'm 100 a month, kid. So by that time, thousands of pages. And so for him to, when he dropped that science, and in my head, I'm like, that's right. And when you see, I think, Tom, you already mentioned, the double page spreads, the enormity of what he could put on a page, and some of those, visuals have yet to ever be duplicated on screen, animated or otherwise, because he just had that eye. That's why I said he's just magic. I've never seen a visualist that performed and created what he created. So that's the first time I made like contact with him as a professional. And then when we started Image Comics, dude, the thing I tell people, he would go to Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, he would go in his powder blue suit with his, white tie. And he literally came out, moving like this. Everybody needs to know Jack is small. I'm not a tall guy. He's much smaller at that point than I am. And Ross said, Rob, this is 1992, San Diego Comic-Con, Images launched. And I look around, and there is, God slowly shuffling over to me. And he said, I just want you to know how proud I am of you guys. And he says, and I just want you to know that if I was a young guy, I'd be doing what you were doing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You did do what we did. Like, you're an inspiration. And he just smiled like, really? And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, and then the next thing I knew, come up and have dinner in the valley with us, Rob. And hell yes. Am I coming tomorrow? When? Like, at that point, Minute Roz is like, we'd love to have you over. And again, that's just what an amazing, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not name dropping. I've met a lot of douchebags in the entertainment industry, but the biggest name I've ever met is, again, somebody who I'd get the closest to assigning the same magic as Jack, but not quite. But super nice, kind, affable, generous. I came home and I said to my wife, she goes, so what's Steven Spielberg like? And this is in 1993. And I ended up sitting with Steven probably a dozen or so times, also went to his house. The guy is so generous and kind and knowledgeable and wants to share and inspire you. And then there's all these mid-level directors and producers who are the biggest dicks ever and act like they hung the moon. But you got Jack Kirby and Steven Spielberg, and the thing that unites these guys at the top, these uber geniuses, they're so generous and kind and nice and blow you away with how, like, wait, why are you being so nice to me? You're Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And I would equate the two, Kirby and Spielberg. I would, that level of talent. So that after that, again, visited the Kirbys a couple times, and then got the unfortunate news. I mean, well, we also published Phantom Force, but I'm not here to promote that. But because Roz let me dig through the drawers, and I saw everything that was there, I did say there's a bunch of unfinished stuff here, and the flashlight went on in my head because I thought we would all go crazy inking him. And I felt like if we could introduce him to a new audience with myself inking some pages, Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, and I didn't, I just told Roz, I think I could pull it off. Can I assemble these different disparate pages? Can we make a story? Roz and I kind of brainstormed right there in that side room where all the artwork was, in the closet and in the drawers and the envelopes, and then she approached Jack. Jack said, great. They looped Mike Thibodeau in. We had everybody's blessing. We were off to the races. So I then would get to work with him for about a year and a half. And then, of course, he passes away. And so that might, but man, it's one of those things. You're so thankful that you got to hang out with somebody as amazing. I mean, I got led to the table where the magic happened. That every time I see somebody put up photos, I regret that I didn't take a camera and take more photos. All of us do. But, then when he let us down the house and all those Kirby originals that in 1992 were not seen by the general public, Kirby Collector wasn't out. So when all those Bible drawings are on his wall and I'm like, what's this? He's like, that's the Battle of Jericho. You're like, what? Spaceships and that pipe organ with robotic controls and these what? And so I'm going, and the first thing I did was, holy shit, Jack knows because he's seen it. He God had spoken through him, and when Jack showed them all how it all looked, they've got it totally wrong. And I mean, I literally, if I could have grabbed that off the walls and run home with it, I was like, oh my gosh, the Battle of Jericho is with techno weapons. And I still maintain, again, the giant movie poster, big face. I thought it was Highfather. I thought it was Odin. I said, who's this? What? Oh, that's God. Everybody remembers it. He's just casually, that's God. And you're like, oh shit. I know now what God looks like because he just showed me. Because Jack, true God, that's what God looked like. And then I'm like, of course, Odin and Highfather all look like this because he said this is what God looks like. And no, man, I can't even tell you. And then after that tour, and I got to be honest, so I'm 25, 24 at that point, and the guys with me are younger. So he's feeding off this youth that night. That first night we're there. And I got to be honest, guys, we left around 1:30 in the morning because we kept trying to leave. And I kept saying to Roz, like, I don't want to keep him up. And she's like, no, he's loving this. Because he's like, I got one more story. Or like, keep telling these Nazi stories. And when you beat him up on the streets of Brooklyn. And I mean, he's just a masterful storyteller, masterful talent. So yeah, I mean, there's never a comic that Jack did that I passed by. And it's funny, even later in life, you see these guys who didn't get the magic of Jack, and they're like, "Oh, I've gone back and I just loved it so much." And I'm like, you can't be a snob. You go, I'm glad you've come around to it at some point in your life, but the magic was always there. I mean, like I said, I would have loved if he drew the interiors of these. I mean, John Buscema did the interior of this. George Perez did this, but if they look like the covers, man, that would have been even better. Yeah. So I'm just so glad we're celebrating him. We're talking about him, and hopefully this gets more people to check out his work. And as we've seen, there are giant. My other favorite is this Jack Kirby, the DC Omnibus with all the weirdo one shots and stuff that he did. Well, I mean weirdo because they didn't go on by much, but I even like the superpower stuff. Again, it's just I wish different people would have inked him over. When a Terry Austin would ink him, you go, oh man, why not an entire job, right? Or more. Yeah. So that later in Jack's life, what Klaus Janson, I would have loved to have seen some of the guys, the best inkers in the Bronze Age, inking. But I also know Jack was very particular. I just want to go back and go, hey, all you assholes who redrew his faces. Like, really? How do you feel about that now? None of those faces were improved. Not a single one. The only time I liked it was when Neil inked Jack, because it's such disparate styles that managed to work. Neil had the respect for Jack. He didn't completely just, he kept the proportions and the block of the figure. So I'm gonna take a breath here. I know you guys are like, why aren't we talking?
It's okay.
I don't know. We want to hear you.
But, do you have any memories of like what it was like when you? So there you were, you were in the 70s, Bronze Age, reading the comics with the covers, Machine Man. But then when you went back, Fantastic Four from the 60s, stuff like that, Captain America from the 60s. You have any?
Well, here's the great thing, Rand. The great thing is, if you remember, in at the time that these are coming out, and Machine Man is coming out, and Marvel has got their entire reprint line, Marvel Triple Action, the Avengers, Marvel's Greatest Heroes is the FF, and I'm getting those Kirby's. But
you were doing it, okay, yeah.
So when I shared a studio with Jim Valentino for 2 years, from '89 to '91, or all of '89 and all of '90, Jim early on one day brought in basically Fantastic Four, like 5 to 100 of his own copies.
Wow.
Because he didn't have like 1 through 4 accessible. And he said, Rob, you're struggling with your storytelling. I want this is your homework. You need to read through all of this. Don't look at the drawing, look at the blocking, look at the composition of the panels, look at he said, you totally are trying to George Perez everything and use 10 panels to tell stories, and that's what George does. That's not that's his style.
Right.
And Jim was very loving, a great teacher, and he said, don't get hung up on the squiggly knees. It's a phrase, but it was those 100 issues of Fantastic Four that in that middle section from the 40s to the 60s where you go, oh my God, was there ever anybody better on And so I was able to. It improved my storytelling. Immediately. I just saw the dramatic, I took out a sketchbook and I would start sketching just my favorite stick figure interpretations of the dramatic angles and poses. And he is the biggest influence on me as a storyteller, period, end of story. I even I did a book, an image called Prophet. And the reason I bring this up is a studio optioned it, and they've hired a guy named Mark Guggenheim, who was the executive producer on Arrow for the last 7 years. He wrote the screenplay. The screenplay came in on Monday. And, in Prophet, his sidekick is named Kirby. And it is an exact replica of Jack Kirby. And a little guy. And Kirby is in the script, and he talks like Jack. And I swear to you, because I was able to share with Jack, Kirby had already appeared in Youngblood #2, and so I showed Jack. I said, "Hey, I modeled this," and I think he just smiled, like, "That's cute, kid. That's nice. You made me a character." And so like, I'm just excited to keep it going, and I hope that there is a film with a Kirby, tribute character in it. But I cannot tell you the profound. The reason I'm bringing this up is that issue, Youngblood #2. Which introduces this character Prophet, is, I would say, the most Kirby I ever went. I just said, I'm just going Jack this issue. I'm going all Jack Kirby, just a lot of 4-panel, just 4-panel pages in the style that, because he would just manipulate 4 panels better than anybody. And again, I want people, look at his compositions, look at the way he never, like Jim Valentino said, he never wastes a shot. There's no excess. And, again, when I said, Jack, how was it that you did 60, 70 pages a month? And, he looks very practically. I had to pay the rent.
Yeah.
I got a wife and kids. I got up at 7 a.m. I started drawing. I didn't stop until 7 p.m. You're like, this guy was disciplined, and this is how he did stuff and how he put everything together. So inspirational. Again, like I said, I don't know of a bigger artist when you really sit down and you want to go to the powwow and bring all of it, the Fantastic Four stuff, the Silver Surfer, dude, you know what? I blanked. The Silver Surfer graphic novel that came out in the 70s. It's got the side cover instead of his cover. And I guess there was some friction between him and Stan on that, as with everything else. Yeah. You know, I forgot. I checked that out from the library, and I never returned it. And I just didn't go to that library because I straight up stole it. Okay. I just need to say I stole it. I'm like, this is never returning to the library. I didn't see it in any bookstore, but man, when the Anaheim Library on Magnolia, and Broadway, I'm sorry, I stole that. But it was too badass. Silver Surfer Blackness. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh. You know, he has so much that we've forgotten all the great stuff that he's done, really. So can't praise him enough. Yeah. Just astounding, amazing. And you guys see that original art. I love looking at it whenever Tom is scanning it at the shows. Yeah. All that stuff. And you do wonder, like, can I hit everybody here with a frying pan and get out with this art and exit? No. I was at one collector's house, and I was like, I've never ever contemplated doing crime, and but I was like, oh my gosh, all this Kirby shit on the wall. I had a frying pan right there in the kitchen, and I had one of those. If I was filming it, you'd film like me imagining just whacking him. I'm like, I can drop him. Perhaps I murder him. I grab the art.
You got the art.
I can be in Mexico before his family checks up on him. Okay. And then that's the kind of like lust Jack brings out, right? I mean, you're like, how do you have these Thor splash pages? And how do you have these entire 4 jobs? Like, I need this to the point of to murder you. No crimes were committed. I kept my impulses in check. Tom, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Well, we're not going to go. But the thing is, he inspires criminal thoughts. Magic, that's the magic Jack has. It becomes like this impulse, like, what can I do to steal this shit? So
we've been doing
thinking I was going to say that today. I'm not sure it was a good idea, but it's been said.
We've been doing these video streams about the Fourth World all summer. You know, we've just been going through comic by comic and talking about the stories and the art. But I got to say that one of the things that's come out of it for me has been those 4-panel pages. I just love them. Every time one of them pops up, I'm like, oh yeah, man, he knew what to do with that. Dude, he just always did. You know, it's great.
Down shot, close up, angled to the other third, and then you're out, and you're going, how did my eye move that?
So good.
You moved your eye through a page better. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, God bless you, Neil Adams. I love you, man. You draw like a mother. You're better than everybody put together when it comes to illustration.
That's true.
Storytelling is whack. Sometimes I'm like, where's my eye going? Where's my eye going? But with Jack, it was boom, 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 boom. You just knew exactly, you know, and Buscema picked up on that. And I mean, again, he's so influential, you know. I mean, he's the big fundamental. He had the basics down, and the other thing is, people don't understand. Go look at those Fantastic Fours to see what an absolute babe Sue Storm is. Sue Richards, Medusa, Crystal. He drew some of the most beautiful women in comics ever. You go, these women are gorgeous. He does not get enough credit. Beautiful Dreamer in the Forever People. You're like,
right, Mike? We just talked about that. Yeah.
I mean, masculine, burly men, beautiful women, the most frightening villains, the best headdresses. Dude, without headdresses, I don't have a career. Okay? Without
Kirby headgear,
without the Forever People and New Gods, I don't have Shatterstar, Shaft. I don't have any of my mate because I'm like, oh, these headdresses are where I live and breathe, man. I love that stuff. Like, oh my gosh. So he's and then between the New Gods and Thor, the greatest headdresses ever conceived. Some of that stuff with Odin, you knew he woke up that morning and said, okay, I'm just going to fill the page with whatever on Odin's head.
That's right.
Ends up is whenever the pencil, where the panel lines end, I'm over. But I want to see that on screen. I want to see him walk in with like a house on his head. Hello, Thor. Hello, Thor. This is my RV that I'm wearing on my car. Genius. I'm gonna get so much drawing done today. I'm inspired. Thank you. I'm Jack.
That's very cool. Yeah. So I guess we could kind of move on. We could take some questions if anybody has any. We can kind of pop them up on the screen. We're going out to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Got it.
Any of those chat venues there, comments that if you have any questions for Rob.
We got one here.
There we go. When Rob broke into comics and at the start of Image, was there as much respect for all the Kirby work? Can you talk a little bit about Jack's biggest payday with Image?
So sadly, to be honest, there wasn't. Jack was not getting. When the Image guys broke in, the reason we blew up, I'll just give you the science. Everybody was tired. Byrne was tired. Perez was tired. Starlin was tired. Frank Miller was kind of ready for his second or third act with Sin City. But so the bronze gods that we worshipped were tired. Walt Simonson was tired. Peak Walt Thor was past. Peak Byrne Byrne X-Men was past. I mean, this is John Byrne doing Namor. This is Walt doing a brief run on FF. None of this is signature. This is George not knowing what to do because he was really spotty at the time. We filled a void, and of guys who and when I say tired, I think they had pushed themselves. They had done genius next level work. And not everything you do is genius next level work. So there was an opening for us. So Jack was even further back. That's why it was such a thrill to be on stage with him and to get schooled by him, because he's forgotten more than we'll ever know. I mean, at that point. And it's still to this day, you're never going to know as much as Jack knew at any point because he had done so much. But that's why doing Phantom Force was important for me personally. Everything I've told you here, the headdresses, the bold figures, the beautiful women, the storytelling, it needed to be out there. We needed to shine a light on it. You needed to know who this guy Jack Kirby was. Yeah. That was the impetus for Phantom Force. And I'm going to tell you, some guys, like I know Eric Larson has said, I wish I didn't ink the actual pencils. There was no scanning and creating blue lines back then. We would have had to have light boxed it. And that wouldn't have been the same. And Jack certainly had no problem.
Right.
To this day, I've never seen those pages since I'm assuming somebody in the Kirby family, maybe Thibodeau, has the Todd McFarlane inked Kirby pages, has the Liefeld inked Kirby pages, Larson, all that stuff. But inking on the page made all the difference. I had my I discovered cleaning the garage, the 11x17 Xerox is the whole book. And I'm just looking at some of them I have pencils of, and then I contrast the ink. So we knew how to respect the work. You will only see Jack in my pages and in Todd's pages, but we put maybe a little different slick line art and we didn't ink him the way he had been inked, but it was still completely identifiable. So by doing Phantom Force, we put a giant spotlight. Immediately Topps makes a deal with him that I think gives him a ton of money for the Satan 6 and Secret City. That doesn't happen, you guys. That doesn't happen without Phantom Force. Jack was being forgotten. So if I can tell you, more than the payday, we helped carry the flag for the guy that inspired everybody. Because I knew that Jack inspired Byrne and Jack inspired Frank Miller. And you knew the entirety of Walt Simonson's Thor run was a giant, homage to Jack. I mean, so we're just continuing to honor the guy that honored us. And I got to tell you, though, some days, like today's comics, I go, who is influencing today's guys? I don't know. They're all drawing on iPad. Is it manga? I still get the comics, but we could use a burst of Jack Kirby. Like comics could use like a giant Jack. If you're listening, it's your birthday. Hit us with some lightning. Hit comic books with your lightning.
Right.
Like we need this.
We do.
Like when are you getting this on a page, right?
That's right. We need it.
like, dude, all these guys, like everybody's it like we definitely were pushing the envelope, and we were trying our best to honor like all the kick-ass. I mean, nobody's doing these giant close-ups. I mean, look at, oh my gosh, this is what I think what I'm holding.
Yeah,
Sorry, awesome. I'm out of frame. I mean, you guys, these giant splash page images. Here, I'm gonna get a good double pager. And the energy, and here's the one thing about that I learned from Jack too is, you know, when he had somebody punching somebody, when he had some the Falcon, or whatever this winged beast is.
Yeah, man.
Dude, like I just don't see this in comics, and we are in dire need of it. And again, as you go, yeah, sure, Liefeld, whatever, we're not in dire need of it. No, they just made a $200 million Eternals movie. Now, whether it works or not, what Jack created in 1977, they are spending $200 million on in 2020. And Cap and Iron Man and look at the Snyder Cut. It's all the fourth world. Whether you like it or not, they're spending their money on this dude's imagination. Okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
That is what Hollywood is filming. Black Panther, hello. I mean, you don't get any of that without Jack. So when I say like, I mean, dude, come on, look at these badass jetpacks. There's not a single page that you don't. Is there a wizard with a hat right here? I mean, like,
There's headdress.
I mean, dude, this shit is off the chain. And I'm so lucky that I have a tolerant family who's like, Dad's got more comics. Holy shit!
Yeah, we know the feeling.
The house now are 4 feet tall. And they all know they're moving out of the house before these move out of the house. Oh, I got it. Okay, here we go.
Oh man, yeah. There we go. The spread. Yeah, man.
I go to the comic store to get inspired, and nothing looks like this. Nothing. And the thing about Jack is when his figures fought, they're close quartered. There's knuckles. There's elbows. He knew. You felt his guys struggling. You felt them. Best action artist ever. Because
he was in so many fights when he grew up. You know, he knew how to fight. He knew the kinetics involved in all that.
Dude, I mean, you can study his, and like I said, the reason with this, it's so fun to see him draw the DC universe. It is so. He draws a great Wonder Woman too, man. But I just nobody gives off the juice like this. There's so much we could steal from him every day and never get everything that we can't possibly absorb. That's why I think he was like so I'm going to tell you this. Steven Spielberg, I'm going to bring Spielberg back into this. He blows me away the first time we're talking story. He tells me that at the end of Close Encounters, he and Isaac Asimov intended the people that get off the saucer are not aliens, they're time travelers. And he said, Rob, the whole thing about Close Encounters is those aren't aliens, those are people from the future. And what's easier to, he says to me, what's easier to imagine that we will one day be able to jump back in time and observe ourselves, or that there is a race on another planet that we have not encountered yet, blah, blah, blah. He's telling me this is what he and Asimov, when they were talking about Close Encounters. And I just go, okay. So at that point, I drove home that night and I'm like, I wonder if a time traveler just told me that. I wonder if Spielberg is from the future. And then I went, well, for damn sure Kirby's from the future. Like, I swear to God, we're going to find out that he landed here, like from some, I mean, who thinks of boom tubes? Literally, I just go, I really think he is like, he showed us so much. He revealed so much.
Yeah.
You look at that Ant-Man design, that Ant-Man helmet, and you go, hello? Like everything works.
Right.
Ulick, the troll from, has there ever been a better battle troll ever? And then Calabac, like those are the stuff that turned me on as a kid, man. All the sons are the Calabac, the son of Darkseid, and the big brooding force. And who's the no, I said Ulick, right? Yeah. Great.
And
Jack just saw stuff. I read a quote today, like somebody who's depressed on Facebook, somebody I don't know, because I befriended all sorts of people, and you go, wow, I don't know this person, but they're writing a thing about depression, and it's like, remind yourself that if you didn't exist, everywhere you ever touched and visited and encountered would be different because you didn't go there. So now, put that on Jack Kirby. Holy shit! No Jack Kirby. We're cocked. Life sucks. It sucks balls. And no Marvel Comics. Please don't ever credit Stan Lee with creating Captain America again. I let you have it once. I'll drop a building on you next time. No. I know your intern, idiot, editor, staff. Like, Stan at the premiere. He must have created Captain America. Because people, when I tell people that Stan had nothing to do with Captain America, they're like, "What? No. Jack has a 30-year jump start on this shit." Okay, So that's what I'm saying. Like, without Jack Kirby, I'm telling you, I'm going to my grave. He's a time traveler, and his son at his funeral. No, his grandson stood up and said that he was visited in his dreams by Jack, and that's why I'm like, he's astral projecting. So I'm not, none of this stuff I've said I say lightly today. It pisses me off that Jack isn't seen as Walt Disney. And it's up to us to make sure people see him in the right light. And I walk a very tight line. I try and give Stan his respect while at the same time, showcasing what Jack was about. Because I don't know if you guys were there, but I was on a Kirby panel 3 years ago at San Diego, and I thought a fight was going to break out.
Really?
I thought a fight was going to break out on the table. I think Mark Evanier had negotiated everyone was going to behave themselves and be nice, but there's that one guy, and he just wanted to shit on Stan the whole time, and it was kind of like negotiated before that, like that wasn't going to happen, and it was getting out of hand. And I'm like, oh shit! Like I'm at a geriatric panel where the geriatrics are going to start throwing shit. And they're like, no, I know we talked about not doing this, but this isn't right. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to get out of here. We can do both. and we can be nice to Stan.
Yeah.
That's the proper engagement. Okay. But I don't, simply put, like Kevin Feige said, because Stan outlived him, Stan got to be seen more. We'll never know, because I tell people, had Jack lived, you would love Jack like you would never loved anybody on planet Earth.
It's true.
If they had put a microphone in front of him, the man that I met, knew, understood, saw on convention floors, that sweetness and generosity and that genuineness people would have been like, where can I drive and hug that guy? Where can I go hug that guy? First, you have to get by Roz, but where can I go hug that guy? So like I said, it's up to us. Thank you for Kirby Day 3 for 103, dude. Thanks for including me. I love talking to Jack. I can talk Jack 24/7. Just the best that ever did it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think maybe we'll just end it there, or if there's any other questions.
I'm going to pass out. If we don't end it here,
that's it. We're out. We're good. Thanks, Rob. That was
Rain, you're best. Mike, thank you. Tom, as always, good to see you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Rob.
Hail to the king. Okay, thanks, guys.
Right on.